Just going to straighten up this mask in the back of the finder. It's got a lot of varied dents in it and bends. Difficult to know what happened to it. Of course, I've already discovered that there's a chip on the top of the prism, which tells me the prism was dropped. So it's every likelihood that this mask got bent up at the same time. They're quite flimsy. You can see there's virtually no metal left here at this point, so they're easily bent up. I just want it to sit back neatly to the finder. That looks alright. I'm just going to give that a quick wipe with a bit of naphtha. I won't use anything else because I don't want to strip the paint off it. There's a lot of sticky residue at this point. This corner's very chewed off. Look at that there. It's right down to the brass and it's damaged looking. Now that's in the same position as this chewed off brass piece here. So somebody's certainly been at that with a file. An odd thing to do, but there's no accounting for what people will get up to with cameras. I need to put the tape around the prism here now, and then put the clamp bracket down over the top. It's a bit of an act with the sticky tape. Take these two pairs of tweezers, and I've got some duct tape here. Norton Bear tape, it tells me. This stuff seems to work quite well. I've just got to cut off some strips wide enough to do the job. And get them into position. Of course, you're trying to make them sorry, you can't really see. I'll do this side, you can see that side. That's fine. I'll put a screw through that and then I can do the other side if I can find the hole for the screw. I'll put a screw through that, then I can remove the other screw. There's the screw I want, it's that one. And work my way around. It's handy to have the prism held down on something. That's good. Otherwise you're forever knocking the thing over while you're trying to work on it. But that looks good. So I'll trim off that excess at the front. Cut another strip of tape. got a shorter strip this time because I'm going down this side. And I can't come back further than this edge, otherwise it'll just run up against the cocking rack. That looks good. See, that prism is covered in greasy fingerprints around the outside at the top. I'm just going to wipe that stuff off lightly with a bit of naphtha. Things like that have a nasty tendency to etch their way in over time. I don't want them etching their way in. It'd be nice if this prism remained usable for another few decades. I'll trim that excess piece of tape off the front and that little bit. And I can run my tape across that front piece. There's nothing holding that prism on except tape at the moment. That looks good. So I can put my clamp bracket in place now. So I'll remove that single screw that I'd put in there. Put our clamp bracket in place. Line up the hole. Run that screw in. And do the same on the other side. Line up the hole. Run that screw in. Now these screws hold the whole finder assembly to the body. So we'll be removing these again shortly. But it lines things up nicely so that I can get the black screws in here and here, which will hold that plate to the finder assembly itself, which I can do now. I'll just make sure that hole's clear. I should be able to get these screws started. Because I've got that on the wrong body, I won't be able to drive them all the way home. Because there's no hole in the top of the body, no pocket that they would, clearance pocket they would drop into. But I can get this thread started. That's it. If I slacken off this screw now, I can drive that screw all the way home, I would think. It'll lift up the bracket. It does. I'll do the same on the other side. Right, so our prism assembly is now in one piece. I've got to run my tape down this back edge. I don't usually try and run the tape right across this area here. It tends to come adrift easily, and then it will foul up the cocking rack, so I don't bother taking it all the way down to there. I don't have access to the thin and super sticky stuff that they used originally. Who would know what special unicorn the adhesive they use to do that. That's fine. Now we can take those two screws out, holding it to this body. Trim off my excess tape here. And put tape over these patches here. Hit this end. At the other end here, now I want a piece of tape across there. And have I got enough width to do it on this piece? I think so. Piece of tape across there. One more piece on the front there and we're done. I should have a piece here. That'll do that job. I trim the excess off. There we have it. So that finder assembly is ready to go onto the body. I'll pop that to one side, shift all this rubbish out of the way. Bring back our camera. Must have been enthusiastic and done that up properly, I did. Lift that off. Carefully blow that bottom surface, make sure there's no dust on it. Now I'll cock that shutter halfway, which pulls this bracket back out of the way. That's the frame counter lever. Drop our prism into place. Three holes. When this is in place, I'll put the top cover back on again temporarily and check to make sure that nothing is fouling, that everything moves smoothly. Just do those two screws up lightly. I've got to get my mask back on the back of the camera at this point over the finder. There are two screws for that, one of which is a slightly mutilated screw, like most of the screws on this camera. It's a bit difficult lining these screws up when you've got to punch a hole through the tape. That's it. And there's the small black screw that holds that to the finder assembly itself. See if I can get that into place. Probably hit a file size limit there, just getting the small black screw in place. Again, we're punching through the tape, so it's a bit reluctant to, a bit difficult to get started. I'll check that those screws are all tight. That's good. Well, I'll put my temporary cover back in place. Why does that not want to fall down into position? Oh, the shutter release button had twisted. That's better. Of course, I haven't serviced the lens for this yet, or I haven't finished servicing it. I've got it apart. Well, the shutter certainly works. We'll set that down on an 1/8. That's all good. I'm going to take a lens from one of my cameras, put it on the front of that and see how the alignment of the images in the finder relate to the images at the film plane. I already know the images at the film plane are good. Here's a suitable lens. I'll cock the shutter, peer out into the distance, and I see that the mirror is too close to the screen by the looks of that. So I'll have to adjust the position of that, and that's done down here. Now its cover is neatly glued in place, so chances are no one's ever done that before. So I'll peel off that cover and get ready to make that adjustment. Looking to see what we've got here. Well, we've got a screw and a lock screw here. That's easy to deal with. I'm going to check my focus at the film plane again, just to make sure that's good on a ground glass screen. It's set to B, f2.8. I'll do that off camera while I check that, and I'm just ensuring that I am correct and that my lens focuses correctly at the film plane. And once I'm happy that that's correct, it should be, I've already checked it, then I'll come back and adjust the position of the mirror, hold down the position of the mirror, which will determine the focus on the screen at this point. Yes, so I just went back and confirmed that the focus at the film plane is correct. So I have a lock screw here and an adjustment screw here. So I'll just loosen off my lock screw. And we'll just move this. If I tighten that screw up, I think we're moving in the right direction. a bit reluctant to move. Let's see how we go. There's try that. Nope, things aren't moving. That lock screw doesn't look like it's shifted. Just a little touch of naphtha on that. See if I can get that to come loose. Well, that certainly did the job. Let's see if we can shift our adjustment screw now. No, that doesn't want to move either. Oops, that's certainly moved. What have we got? Oh, that's just about right. I'll tighten my lock screw at that point, see if that changes anything. We're just about on this. That's pretty good. That's it. That's it. I'm quite happy with that focus. Let's make sure my lock screw is done up tight, and it certainly is. So our prism is good. The viewfinder is nice and clean. No fingerprints. So far so good. Now the next thing on this camera, well, I've got to connect up the meter at the top here. I've got to lock the cord into the slot in the drum so that the setting stays where it is at the moment, which is the correct setting, of course. Apart from that, I've got to clean up the top cover. Make sure that's nice and clean, that the viewfinder lens is clean, and then assemble the top cover to the camera body. At that point, I've got to put my replacement spring in on the meter and make sure that that's all good to go. It's all looking pretty good at the moment. And once the body is all together and assembled, I've got to turn my attention to the lens, of course. Just looking at that viewfinder, there's some marks on the back of that finder. I'm just going to clean them off now. I managed to just bend that metal mask. Let's take it off, straighten it out, put it back on. I was just attempting to push it over a bit because it was obviously not aligned with the centre of the finder particularly well. That was not the good thing to do. However, we have the technology. And the alignment's not much better than when I started, but it is slightly better. Better enough. Doubt you can see any of this because I'm facing the wrong way for you. Right, the meter. So, there are notches in this drum, in the base of this drum here, and basically we have to pull the lower cord, the one at this end, back up over the top cord, get the top cord through the notches in the drum, and then pull the cord back over again. It's only a little bit fraught. First, I'm going to go back and check on my light source that I've disturbed nothing, that the setting is where I left it, and that it's correct. That setting's all good, so I'm just going to put an alignment mark here, across the cords and across the drum, so that as I revolve the drum, my alignment marks should stay in the correct position, and I'll notice if they move out of line. So my notches around here, and they're just coming into view at that point. I'll zoom you in for this. The notches in the drum are here and here. So I've got to lift that cord up, the lower cord up. So I'm using a toothpick there to manipulate it over the top of the upper cord, and the upper cord is sitting here. I want to get that upper cord through these two notches. This is always awkward. That's one side. That's the other side. Whoops! Disaster! Well, that was a total disaster. the drum has come off, the meter's fallen off the camera, the cable has lost its tension. The chances of me getting this back together without pulling the front off the camera are slim.